There's a famous saying, if you've been watching Game of Thrones, winter is coming. It's always coming. This is why I'm so wrapped up. I've got a cardigan on. I've got a sweatshirt and t-shirt underneath that. So I'm fully wrapped up. Room's nice and heated. The lighting is warming up. However, there's a concern because not just this is something we'd share anyway, something about your immunity, how to boost your immunity. But on a geopolitical level, on a global level, on a societal level, this is probably going to be one of the toughest winters ever. As we'll make it as lighthearted as possible. The podcast, the natural medicine podcast, which you're watching, we'll be making it lighthearted as possible. But we also want to share with you things you can do to actually ensure your immune health is totally protected, because if you protect nothing else, that's the one thing you got to protect. So you are watching the Natural Medicine Podcast. My name is Haroon Rabbani. I specialize in helping people reverse type 2 diabetes, particularly business owners, leaders, entrepreneurs. And my background is in doing psychological work towards healing childhood traumas as well as functional medicine. We are joined by Dr. Ashish Paul. Ashish, a bit about yourself.
Hi, good evening, Harun, and good evening to everybody who's watching live or replay. My name is Dr. Ashish. I support women who are going through fertility issues, especially women CEOs or women leaders, busy women and, extra productive women. And then when it comes to fertility, they're struggling. So that's where I come in and I coach and I consult and do treatments. And of course, I'm a practitioner of natural medicine, Ayurvedic medicine. I'm a herbalist and yoga master practitioner. So, it just adds on and on.
Yeah, we have a lot of qualifications, more importantly, experience. So there's so many things about the immune system we can cover, but the one thing we want to touch upon, we want to make it simple and basic enough that everybody can use. So this is not about teaching you science. This is about teaching you more about who you are, what you are, and how you can protect yourself. So Ashish, what's from the not just natural medicine, because we both do that, but from an ancient science of Ayurveda, what are the key principles that people can learn now about the immune health and how to boost it?
Right. So it goes back to one, learning about what are the strengths and weaknesses of your body, which goes back to your mind body constitution, to learn about what are the good foods for you, what are the bad foods for you, for your constitution, for your body health. And then it's not about making things complex. It's about simplifying it. Even simpler foods can be the best ones for you, and the best food is the one you can digest and can actually assimilate in your system. And your health and well-being comes from what you eat. It's just straightforward link to the food, and that is where your immunity also comes from. So in Ayurveda, we have 7 tissue states, which is Ras, Rakt, Mas, Med, Asthi, Majja, Shukra. Shukra is the reproductive tissue. And then after that comes the Ojas, which is the immunity. The essence of your whole well-being is in the form of immunity. So I don't know if you've heard of that.
So some of the terminologies I've heard. So because we talk about this quite a bit, let's pretend that this is the first time someone's watching it. So one of the big issues you mentioned is body constitution. So for example, some foods that are brilliant. So today, we're at the time of recording, it is now autumn. It's October. It's coming towards the end of middle of October, I guess, and towards the latter part where in autumn leaves are falling. It's cold, and I find one of the best foods for me to eat personally, is soup. I mean, it just hits the right nerves for me, the right buttons.
Yeah.
But other foods aren't good for me. So the 3 doshas, Vata, Kapha, Pitta. You see, I've been listening. Is there anything that the 3 types? I mean, can they eat the same foods, to protect the immune system or not? Is the first question.
You can eat the same food, but the addition to it, the oil will be different. You can either eat it with oil or with ghee or with this spice or the other spice, which is suitable for you. So
Mm,
you make it suitable for your type. It's the same potato that you need. You can eat, or if you're having, say, potato and leek soup, for example, right now, then vata needs more spicing up of it. Kapha needs a little bit less water, not as much water content. Pitta needs less spice. They just need the warmth of the food itself. So that's how slightly it varies. But we are talking about consistent habits. You know that consistency word, it comes a lot now these days when we talk about personal development, when we talk about the healthy habits. And that consistency is in foods as well. What you are eating every single day. And I normally say 80-20 rule. It doesn't totally is 80-20, but out of 7 days, you can cheat maybe for one meal. Yeah. So however many meals you have, two big meals every day. So you have 14 meals. Out of that, you can cheat for one or maximum two meals. Yeah. But the rest of the time, you have to eat according to your body, mind, constitution. So consistency, how has consistency worked for you?
yeah, I mean, for me, I think one thing I was commenting about with my partner earlier on is actually how well we eat. We're primarily plant-based. Occasionally we have fish and so on, but certainly in the last few years, it's just been the same quality of food, and hence the lack of falling ill, the lack of stress still happens in life. So one of the things for me, for example, being aware that Pitta, which is the fiery body constitution, Pitta dosha, that it's something I need to be mindful of, that I don't do too much of. Salads, for example, as much as
Yeah.
I love salads, I'm not eating so much in salads, particularly in the winter. So
Yeah.
actually keeping things consistent by having some awareness, this is true self-awareness of my own body constitution,
Yeah.
is helping. And by the way, if you're wondering, well, how the hell do I find out about my body constitution? If you're watching the replay, then make sure you click on the link, and there's a questionnaire there. Dr. Ashish will figure out your body constitution, complete that, and you'll find out for good. It makes all the difference. So, in terms of food, is one thing, but what about the frequency of eating? How frequently should somebody be eating, and what times does it make a difference? So we'll move on to supplements and stuff like that later, but is there a particular time or duration people should be eating?
I think you know that during the now as the season is coming in winter, you can eat. There is tendency to eat more kapha foods because you want that heaviness, you want that starchiness. Being the season what we are entering into, so seasonally your habits should change because now we need to fatten up a little bit, like all animals do, so that you can protect yourself from the winter if you are in winter. um, Only apart from few countries which are in summer right now. But it is to eat according to the season. So if the season is cold, eat warming foods, eat foods which are moist, eat foods which gives you that kind of a little bit more fattening. People put on a bit more weight. That is why it is harder to lose weight during winter season, because naturally body is trying to preserve that fat. So it is about timing wise. We have spoken about the timings of the food, when you should be eating, so not too late in the evening, because also, as I said, if you're trying to manage your weight, then this is a season where you naturally put on a little bit more, because body is trying to warm you up. So make sure you have more towards the breakfast and lunch and least towards the dinner. Yeah. I mean,
And
have you
then
had a
what?
dinner?
Yeah. Well, tonight's actually quite late because I've had client work and so on. Tonight, it's one of the rare occasions I have to eat really late. Generally, for people who have type 2 diabetes or obesity issues or pre-diabetes, insulin resistance,
Yeah.
one of the things they need to be mindful of is how frequently they're eating, because the big problem, what a lot of people don't understand is this: insulin resistance. I'm going to come back to that because as a result of insulin resistance, you got all those conditions I've already mentioned. But insulin resistance is a significant contributor to dementias and Alzheimer's and cancer and stroke and heart disease, all the metabolic diseases. It is a biggie. And what is insulin resistance? It's basically your body is producing too much insulin throughout the day. And because you got so much insulin, your cells going, hey, no more. And as a result, you end up with blood sugar spikes. That has so many detrimental effects. With the trick for people who are serious about it, and usually people who come to me who've got type 2 diabetes, when they're serious about it, they realize that they need to cut down the time they eat. So in other words, time restrict a window to eat. So the very basic minimum, very, very basic, you should be giving your digestive system at least 14 hours where you don't put anything to your mouth. What do I mean by 14 hours? Well, you sleep 8 hours. There you go. So if you sleep at 10 o'clock and you sleep for 8 hours, you're waking up at, I think, 6 in the morning. So you sleep 8 hours. 4 hours after your last meal is, you should have that kind of gap by the time you finish eating and go to sleep, because you don't want to go to bed with food in your stomach. So that's already 4 plus 8, that's 12 hours. When you wake up, if you've got diabetes or insulin resistance or any of the above conditions I already mentioned, then you need at least 1 hour break. Drink water, not a problem. Herbal tea, not a problem, before you put anything that will activate your pancreas or your digestive system. There you go. You already got 13 hours. Eat 1 hour later, there's your 14 hours. So if people can restrict how long they eat to 10 hours, that will just generally, it will help in so many levels. If they reduce it to 8 hours, you're going to start losing some weight in a good way, the bad weight, right?
Yeah.
And what's amazing is that after up to about 12, 13 hours, you're using all your blood sugar up. But then you go into something called ketosis, which is basically your fat cells are being used.
Yeah.
Here's the beautiful one. For one of the issues is if your immune system is too busy fighting dead and dying cells in your own body, then it's going to have trouble dealing with external stuff coming in, infections and so on. So after approximately 17 hours, give or take a couple of hours, depending on the person, depending on the condition and so on, after 17 hours, you go through a process called apoptosis. In other words, your cells kill themselves, the bad ones, by the way. Your bad dying cells, the ones which are depleted, the ones which are going to die anyway, the ones which are draining your energy, they start popping off, and your body, your immune system is freed up. So what I'm saying is this: if you can have approximately 17, 18 hours, that means 6 hours you eat, 18 hours of not eating, of which 8 hours you sleep anyway. If you can do that, you are going to supercharge your immune system at a different level altogether. You need to do that because I kid you not, this is so sad state of affairs, that what's going on in the world right now, that a lot of people are suffering. And we can't control the geopolitics unless you're a politician, like a prime minister or something like that, or in the government. I'm presuming none of the government will want to watch our program because it means they have to take responsibility, and they don't do that. But I won't go political. They're all scum as far as I'm concerned. So sorry, government, but so if you can supercharge, and we're going to share a bit more about supercharging your immune system. If you can supercharge your immune system by just doing that, oh my goodness, it's going to make a difference. What do you think, Ashish? Have I said anything that goes against the principles of Ayurveda, which is very important? I don't.
No, because we are overall as a species are eating too much, and we're constantly eating as well. So when you are doing that, that is too much load. Your body is too busy, as you mentioned, just digesting that food. It doesn't have the time to restore, recalibrate. It doesn't have the time to balance itself. So for balancing it out, as you have mentioned, if people could do that 14 hours, extend it a little bit more, make it into kind of intermittent fasting period, of 18 hours or so, that really balances your health. However, most of people are doing this as a fad. They're doing this on a short-term basis. It doesn't work. Short-term is always going to give you bad results. Afterwards, it hits you harder. You put back on all the weight, or rather, body goes a little bit more into shock. So, whatever you want to do, even if it's little, one thing you can only do, but add that to your lifestyle forever.
Yeah.
Good, healthy lifestyle. That is what I would say. So, what you were mentioning, yeah.
So let's talk about gut health, because this is a very massively emerging science of gut health and the gut biome. Let's just lay on the facts. I think everybody across the board agrees that 70% of your immunity comes from your gut biome. What's the gut biome? It's your bacteria and other microbes, the good guys. There's some bad guys there as well, by the way. The good guys, the good bacteria and the gut microbiome,
Yeah.
which starts from in here and to the other end of your alimentary canal, in other words, your anus. All of that is
Yeah.
lined with gut bacteria. And, people might say, oh, God, that's horrible. Well, let's just give it context. You have got 30 trillion, that's 30 million cells in your body, human cells. That's yours. It's your DNA. You've got 35 to 40 trillion cells, which are not yours. It's your gut biome. They're on your skin. So you might say, oh God, I washed my face. No, no, you got stuff on your skin, all over the place, in your hair,
Yeah.
throughout your body. And they work in cooperation and collaboration with yourself. And so medication, how does medication affect your gut bacteria?
Absolutely. Modern medications, most of them, they are not good for. We know, for example, all types of antibacterial medications that you take. What is it called? Anti-infective antibiotics
Antibiotics.
that you
Hmm.
take, even the antifungal medications that you're taking. So they really damage your gut bacteria. And as you have pointed out, yes, we make all the most of the immune complexes, they start in your gut, which means that what you are feeding into yourself has a direct impact on your immunity. And I think what people perhaps they do realize, but they, because consistency is so difficult to maintain on a daily basis, and you get carried away eating the stuff that you shouldn't be eating, um, is the fact that every day what you eat is actually eventually is going to give you your immunity. But we want quick results. What herb can give me immunity? What medicine can give me immunity? Your immunity is coming from your internal health, how your cells are, how balanced your sugar levels are, how balanced your hormonal levels are. All of that eventually adds up and gives you body that strength which it needs to fight any kind of, foreign body, even internal body. When body gets too overwhelmed, for example, it is common in type 2 diabetes as well, that autoimmune, you are more prone to autoimmune. Why? Because your system cannot deal with so much stress and the pressure of dealing with digesting the, tackling with the high insulin or tackling with the insulin resistance. And you need to, um, and then it starts attacking its own cells. That's what autoimmunity is. And we know that autoimmune conditions are on the rise. And it comes again from the gut, because that is what is feeding your bacteria.
So,
And
so
viruses, we have got so many viruses as well.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, when a person is truly healthy, then they can fight off most infections and most bacteria, etc. So if you want to improve your gut biome, then you've got to feed what it needs. So you've possibly heard of probiotics and prebiotics. Probiotics are basically the bacteria, it's the microbes. So how do you put probiotics into your gut? You eat foods like high fiber foods,
Yeah.
so stuff like kale and spinach and broccoli and Brussels sprouts,
All
all
the
the leafy lettuce, yeah, all the greens. But then on top of that, which I absolutely love, is kimchi, which is Chinese
your
cabbage.
favorite.
It's my favorite by far. I've done videos on it. Kimchi, sauerkraut, homemade sauerkraut is so tasty, by the way, just to let you know. It's fermented food. There's kimchi, there's sauerkraut, there's tofu, There's, which I don't have for whatever reason, miso soup. What about the Indian foods? Which ones are the live? Because believe it or not, I don't have any, not for any other reason, because I just love my kimchi too much. But achar is a pickle, right? Does that have?
We have pickles of different kinds. We have lots of chutneys that we make with different herbs, like mint chutney and with coriander, with other spices. So all of that is, you keep taking little by little. It becomes part of your cultural eating, and that eventually adds, to give you that, as you were saying, the fermented foods, or the fermentation that is required to keep your gut healthier.
And
So
sorry,
yeah.
go ahead. And
No.
the trick is to have a diverse range
Yeah.
of foods. A lot of people talk about kefir. The only problem I have with kefir is about probably close to 80-90%, depends on the culture. Definitely Asian culture, 90% of people are lactose and dairy intolerant. So
Yeah.
it doesn't work for everyone. If you're not dairy intolerant, if you're not lactose intolerant, then kefir is a very good option. Otherwise, have the kefirs made out of oat milk or something. But the trick is not to rely on one, because you got so many millions of different species of
Yeah.
bacteria supporting you. You might say, well, hold on, gut health, I've never heard of this. Well, here's an example. The feel-good hormone, which is serotonin. It's serotonin. It gives you the feeling of being fulfilled, being at peace within yourself. Dopamine is about stuff outside of yourself. Serotonin is within yourself. Now, this activates the brain, triggers the brain and the nervous system to make you feel good. 95% of your serotonin comes from your gut bacteria. So if you are depleted of gut bacteria because you've been on medication, or you are drinking too much alcohol, or having lots of doner kebabs, then it will give you depression. It will give you anxiety, because you won't have that inner sense of fulfillment. So this is why it's critical. Sometimes people ask me, well, what must I protect? One of them, protecting your immunity, for me, is about protecting your gut bacteria, your gut biome. 70%, right? If you can protect that, what goes in here, then the other stuff will be a lot easier to deal with. So
Yeah, I
what?
just want to add, when we talk about eating dairy, for example, even eating yogurt, fresh live yogurt, people like, oh, I'm dairy intolerant, unless of course you are severely intolerant or allergic. You don't need that much dairy. For example, you don't need that much yogurt. You don't have to have the full pot of yogurt. You just need even a small spoon every day. One spoon has enough live bacteria to set your gut.
Yeah.
But it is the consistency of it, and to eat with other good habits. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just wanted to add that.
That's interesting, because that's exactly what I do. So I get a small bottle of kefir, and I literally take a swig once a day, and I've done it for the last 3-4 days, and that bottle's finished. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to do something else. So it's if you can. My own suggestion is that you want to be having probiotics, different types, 2-3 times a day. If you can do that, you are going to protect it like crazy. But like I said, it's so important to avoid, or be very, very mindful of certain foods, which are actually, besides medication, alcohol. If you're taking a lot of alcohol, beyond moderate, whatever moderate means, I don't drink, but beyond moderate, if you're taking alcohol, then that's going to be an issue. Is there anything other things that maybe people want to avoid?
No, I had a point about. I had a point, but
Okay,
it
you had a point.
is gone now.
Okay. Well, while we're still staying on the gut and food and eating and drinking, the other thing is to stay hydrated. A lot of people wake up feeling super, super hungry. And it's not that they're hungry, it's just that overnight you've been breathing out water.
Yeah, and many people breathe out open mouth.
Yeah. And so you're losing a lot of water. So you wake up and think, oh my God, I'm starving. And so the trick is, first thing in the morning, what I do, big cup or big glass of water, warm water, hot water, and slice of lemon or slice of lime in there, and just drink that before anything, after brushing my teeth and scraping my tongue, of course.
Yeah.
So it's very important you stay hydrated. The numbers I'm not so sure about the 2 liters a day, because I think some people need water more than others because they're much bigger or for whatever reason. So staying hydrated. The other thing is this healing. We've talked about this so many times before on this podcast. Healing takes place whilst you're asleep. Your body needs to heal on it. It's always healing. It's always detoxifying. It does most of its healing, particularly the brain, only when you're asleep. So if you're burning candles on the both ends, so in other words, having 5-6 hours sleep, your immune system is going to get shot to pieces. If you want to improve your sleep, very simple, wake up early. Wake up very early, go for a walk, as Andrew Huberman talks about this a lot on his podcast. Go for a walk towards the sunrise, the more early morning sun. That will activate your sleep hormone melatonin 16 hours after you've seen that first morning sun. Not through a window, because that doesn't work. You have to do it outside. If you do that, sleep early, sleep by 10 o'clock, get 8 hours sleep at least. If you can get 8 hours sleep, then you're taking massive amounts of precaution. This is about prevention, by the way, because if your immune system gets shot to pieces, you're going to be open up for so many different illnesses and diseases, not just cold or flu.
Yeah.
Is there anything people should do with their sleep, like say napping? Is that useful in your perspective or not?
Uh, yeah, I mean, sleep is beneficial. Not everybody needs 8 hours. It depends on your body constitution, how much sleep you need. And for some people, napping works really well, 10 minutes or 20 or half an hour. For some, it really, like for me, I can't sleep during the day. It is according to your body constitution again. But sleep overall will reset everything, and it is a long term strategy to build your immunity if the immunity has been down for. And I also want to point out, sometimes people say, you have children who are born recently, they're a few months old, or year or 2 years, and they never have that immunity. They already have very low immunity. Okay. It is tricky. This is not about blaming anyone. This is just about informing and educating ourselves. You obviously don't know if you have never heard of this before, but your children's immunity comes from your health. Yeah.
Yes.
The health of your eggs and your sperms and the environment that you give it to them and your overall family habits is what your children's health come from. So that is why it is important to understand what is it that you're doing. Maybe it's in the diet, maybe it's in the lifestyle, maybe it's in the way, the timing of the food. Yes, certain children can be born with low immunity. You can strengthen it as you go along. Learn how to do that. You can do that with herbs, with daily habits, with foods. Uh, but to say that this has come out of blue, nothing comes out of blue as such. There is a reason for it. But that reason is, again, it's not, I'm saying this again, it's not about blaming the parents. You don't know, but your health is affecting your children's health directly, actually, not even indirectly.
Yeah.
So parents' health has to be top notch, which is why I do what I do, and educating people that before you get pregnant, cleanse yourself, make yourself healthy so that you have good quality eggs and sperm, so that your children's health is, top notch.
Well, they've measured the toxicity of pregnant mothers, heavy metals, and so on, and plastics, all those toxins, and
BPA.
BPA and phthalates and all that kind of stuff. It's exponentially higher today than it was 20, 30 years ago. It used
Yeah.
to be high then, but now it's gone through the roof. And this does not surprise me because so many kids have got so many different allergies and various illnesses, including mental health issues. So the other thing so I totally agree. Detoxification before you get pregnant is a very smart move because you are going to save yourself so much time, energy, effort, heartbreak for
Yeah.
you and your child later on. It's not about, this is an education channel, by the way, and everything that we're sharing is for education purposes only. Please let me emphasize this.
Yeah.
Do not take any of this as medical advice. If you want medical advice, go to your doctor. This is for education purposes only. And so one of the things you'd want to educate yourself is recognize that if you haven't had a child yet, is at birth, when the baby comes through the birth canal of the mother, it picks up so much of the microbes, which
Yeah.
actually contribute significantly to the child's immunity. So if your child has cesarean birth, then you've got to take other actions after.
That's
If there hasn't, that's great. The other thing is, of course, the child at birth will be influenced by the microbiome of the father, the mother, the nurses, the family members around them, just like how you said,
yeah.
Ashish. And the child's microbiome will only be as good as the strongest person's microbiome in the family.
Yeah.
So if every member of the family is a doner kebab fan, and I'm sorry, my Turkish friends, if you like doner kebab, I'm not meaning to attack one of your national foods. It's not meant to be like that. It's just the British, they've abused it. Okay, sorry, British. Well, I'm not going to apologize to the British. You guys abused Indian food as well. Chicken tikka masala, my ass. But anyway, so if you as a family, if you're all eating unhealthily, then the child is already inheriting a terrible immune system. And so
Yeah.
moving on from birth, one of the issues is this. People talk about inflammation. We talk about inflammation. And what is inflammation? Inflammation is a swelling. You get a cut or a bruise, it swells up, right? And the immune system goes and protects it. The problem is if you've got chronic inflammation, which is low level inflammation, the inflammation protects the cells. Nothing can go in, nothing can come out.
Yeah.
Let me emphasize, nothing can go in, nothing can come out. In other words, those cells which are inflamed, and you'll know you've got chronic inflammation. I'll explain one of the ways you'll know. Those cells that are inflamed get toxic because there's a buildup of toxins inside. They become poisonous. All chronic diseases, including cancer, has chronic inflammation as a direct cause. It's not the only cause, but it's certainly a direct cause. So someone with cancer can't have cancer without chronic inflammation taking place.
Yeah.
What causes chronic inflammation? Well, Dr. Ashish, let's hear some of let's hear some of the things that you feel affects chronic inflammation.
So chronic inflammation comes from the gut. So it comes from the foods that you're eating, your dietary habits, your stools that you're passing, or rather, if you are not passing them properly, and you are, kind of eating even when the previous meal has not really been digested. And that's when we have what we call the secondary and tertiary metabolites in the system, which then stick to your veins, arteries, stick to your intestines, and then become the inflammatory plaques. From there, it starts the whole process of then plaques. They break off, they go into other, with your bloodstream, go into other parts of your body and make more inflammatory plaques. So it is this process which is coming again from your gut.
Yeah. And so, just to give you context, if you got to build up a plaque, atherosclerosis, in your arteries and your veins, what's going to happen is this: they're going to have less space
Yeah.
for the blood to move, which causes, guess what? High blood pressure. So high blood pressure is a very big issue. So chronic inflammation, you'll know you've got it because you've got high blood pressure. You've got a chronic disease. So you got cancer, diabetes, you just name it. You've got a chronic disease already tells you you've got chronic inflammation. If you've got chronic pain, meaning constant back pain, knee pain, joint pain, then that
That's
also
also
indicates.
inflammation. Yeah.
Yeah. So chronic inflammation is preventable exactly as you just said, preventable by eating plant-based foods.
Yeah.
Cut out our favorite foods to attack, by the way, because we think it's so bad for you, which are, besides doner kebabs, cut out all processed foods because of the high salt, sugar content, the preservatives, the additives, all of those that are made yucky, nasty food to taste good. All of that needs to go. Refined sugars,
Yeah.
or sugars full stop. Refined flour, I meant. Refined flour, baked pastries, And it's interesting. I'm on TikTok a lot, as you know. There's a lot of people who are diabetes. Well, that's the area I'm talking about. So I've got people who got diabetes, and someone recently said in a live stream that, oh, they got diabetes. What should they do? And their username had the name something cake in it. And I said, there you go. It's in your title. The fact that you're using something cake or that as your name already indicates to me, without knowing anything about you, that you're a fan of cakes. And so they need to go.
Yeah.
And some people might say, oh, no, I don't want to take the pleasures out of my life. Fine, no problem. And there's consequences. With all those pleasures that you have, there's consequences. If you want to reverse type 2 diabetes, if you want to get healthy, you might have to eat some stuff which is very yucky. One of the best foods for diabetes is, for example, Karela, which is Karela, which is an Indian, well, it's actually all over the world. It grows in the tropics. It is bitter like crazy, but my God, does it do some good for
Yeah.
your blood sugar level. So cut out the sugars. You don't need it. When you're eating those sugars, you're feeding the fungi, the bacteria, the bad bacteria, the yeast,
Yeah.
the molds inside of your gut, which is basically saying, hey, feed me, feed me. You think it's you. It's not you. It's those guys, and you're feeding it. So cut the sugars out, cut the refined flours out, the cakes, the pastries, etc. You can eat stuff like buckwheat and gluten-free stuff, and what's the other one? Rye bread. Those are fine, but the refined sugars, cut them out. Is there any other foods that people perhaps should eat instead of those that I've just mentioned? No roti. People, just in case any Indians watching, roti not good for you. Whole flour, not still not that much good for you. Cut it down.
Yeah, we know that sugar and processed foods and the really gluten-rich foods, they lower your immunity. So you need to reduce them to minimal, and also to find whatever that minimal level is for you. For example, people who have got chronic conditions like diabetes, or they have condition like cancer, direct correlation. You take all the sugars out and you can improve your health considerably. You take all the carbohydrates and the gluten out, and straight away you can feel the difference in weeks. So it is replacing them with all the good greens and the vegetables and fresh lentils, and learning how to cook those. And you can eat plenty of those. There are really good ones. All of them are really good ones, and fruits as well. The fruits, not very high sugary ones for the diabetics, but otherwise you can eat all the good fruits as well. Yeah. Yeah, part of the balanced diet.
It has to be a balanced diet. So moving on, and because we said promise to each other, we're not going to make the call that long, and it's already on 37 minutes. Time just flies. I mean, what the heck? Since we're here, the other thing is, of course, exercise is critical. Exercise. We want to talk about exercise, sauna, and mindset, and I think we're done. Exercise is critical. You must exercise. One of the biggest biohacks tricks you can ever do is this. Absolutely amazing. Even if you hate exercise, is this. And people with diabetes, nobody can become a client of mine if they refuse exercise, because that's a very big part of it. After you've eaten a meal, you will have a blood sugar spike, whatever your background is, to some degree. If you had a sugary food, of course, a massive one. The trick is this: as soon as you've eaten, go for a 10-15 minute walk, not a fast paced walk, just your general, because what's happening is your mitochondria, your energy factories, needs sugar, it needs carbohydrates, it needs glucose to create the energy you need, and it will basically take it from your fat stores, it'll take it from your bloodstream. So when you exercise, I don't even want to consider that as exercise. After every single meal, so breakfast, lunch, dinner, if you have 3 meals or 2 meals, doesn't matter, go for a 10-minute walk. You might say, oh my goodness, what am I going to go for 10 minutes? Well, go around your block so many times that you do 10 minutes, or go for a 5-minute walk in one direction and then come back. That's 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And external, going outside is good because it's fresh air and so on. If it's chucking it down as thunderbolts and lightning and it's very, very frightening for you, then going up and down the stairs for 10 minutes.
Yes, I was going to say that.
Yeah, if you do that, even doing that for 10 minutes, not running, just walking. Your leg muscles are your biggest muscles in your body. Your heart muscles have got the greatest amount of mitochondria, 5,000 per cell. That is going to be huge. They're going to be hugely active. And,
Yeah.
and so that at a minimum for everybody, I recommend, because it will prevent so many illnesses down the line. But exercise, your favorite one is yoga. I mean, is yoga beneficial for immunity or not?
Yes, it is part of exercise routine. It's a different kind of exercise and stretching and in do half of the aerobic stuff and make sure that you allow some time for breath work. Learn how to do breathing. Breathing is going to improve your immunity directly as well. So different types of yoga breaths that you can learn, and doing them consistently is the key. If you have 1 minute, just do 1 minute. You will be doing far much greater good for yourself if you're only doing, I don't know, 10 minutes once a week. So yeah, my favorite is that, breath work is my go-to exercise on top of the aerobic exercise that anybody is doing, or hit or whatever else you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And yoga, there's different types of yoga. I know that's your favorite. It's actually my favorite as well. It's one of my favorites, I would say. Yoga, you've got the highly active type of yoga, and then the more calming yin type. Nighttime, I go for the yin type.
Yeah,
It's absolutely amazing. One of the things that people don't realize about yoga is, especially the gentle, flowy movements and the twists and the turns and so on. Um, you're massaging every single organ, and as a result, you're helping to send oxygen to those organs. You're helping to remove toxins from those organs.
yeah,
You're helping to remove inflammation from those organs. There's so much benefit you're doing as well. And every organ, wait for this. This is not you. I know you're waiting anyway, but I'm talking to the audience. Wait for this. Every organ and set of organs directly affects your emotions. Here's an example. If you're somebody who's holding on to a lot of anger in the form of resentment, you're going to find you've probably got some liver or certainly gallbladder issues. Every single client I've had in the past who've got lung health issues, they are holding on to sadness and grief. So doing the breath work,
yeah,
even the act of breathing, helps. The pranayama you're talking about, doing the breath work helps in dealing with grief and sadness. One of my clients, I won't mention who, her literally just before 10 minutes before this episode we started recording, she said her father has just passed away. She expected that. I expected that. And we've been in touch. And so, one of the things I'm going to get her to do, she'll have to go through the grieving process for sure. That's important. But then, when the grieving process is over, is to get her to focus on breath work, the specific types of breath work she can do. And so, yoga in that sense is an all-rounder. For men, this is for men, I strongly recommend, if you're over 40, go and do some powerlifting, weightlifting, not to be a bodybuilder, but to boost your testosterone levels,
yeah,
to build your muscles, which will help you with, we're talking about immunity, right? This is all related. If you've
yeah.
got a lot of muscles and you're working it and you're active 3-4 times a week, then it's going to boost your immune health as well. Have I missed anything to do with exercise?
No, I think you've covered all of it. But with yoga, with breath work, we have then, it relates to your mind. You mentioned mindset earlier, and how then mindset comes into play. Your perspective, the way you look at life, the way your mindset is also directly linked to how your immune system behaves, how your cells behave. If you feel sad, they feel the sadness. If you feel negative, that negativity is felt by your immune cells, directly. It has been measured. So when you so the idea is to look towards doing things rather than blaming yourself and being the victim of scenario or whatever situation you are in. Learning, getting up and doing things always help you, make you think that you are in charge or you're in control of this situation. Whatever you can do to get yourself out of that situation, and that also then builds and helps your immune system.
So, whilst you're on mindset, Here's an experience I've had, Ashish, over the years throughout my life. I never fall ill unless I have an emotional surcharge, a negative emotional charge. So, in other words, something. I mean, I was a sick child, just to let you know. I grew up, being sick until I was like started my martial arts when I was 14. Up till then, I used to have epileptic fits, and so I was since the age of 3 months. So
Mm.
it's quite regularly, 4 or 5 times a year, I'd have epileptic seizures. So anyway, all of that changed. But since throughout my adulthood, the only time I fall ill is either there's two times. I'm exhausted because I've not rested enough. So I've worked, like slept 3 or 4 hours or whatever for 2 or 3 nights in a row. That's it. I'm going to fall ill. I'll fall ill. The other time is actually when I have emotional distress. So chronic stress or distress, which is really what it is, directly weakens your immune system. If you're somebody in a stressful job, so I was talking to one of my clients who is doing everything, diabetic client, doing all the right things, everything goes going well. But then on his recent project, he was away abroad somewhere. His everything just went belly up. He was falling ill. His blood sugar was going through the roof, etc., etc. And he spent within, when he came back, spent a couple of days within my retreat. Everything shifted to a positive way. Even when you're good at a job and you're a master at it, if there's too much stress consistently, it's
Yeah.
called chronic stress, and it's another cause. It's one of the biggest causes of type 2 diabetes that nobody else seems to talk about except me, by the way. Uh, it really impacts on your decision making.
Yeah.
It impacts on, well, decision making is everything, right? Your choices and the consequences that come with the
Yeah.
decision. But very importantly, it impacts on your immune health. So you talked about breath work. Very important. If you could do 10 minutes of pranayama, we should create a
10
course
minutes is a long time, but
10
even
minutes.
if you can do 5 minutes.
Five minutes in the morning, 5 in the evening. I must tell my clients to me. I hope none of my clients are watching, because I tell them at least 10 minutes twice a day,
Okay.
just to
All
let you
right.
know. But they're unwell people, so
No, that is
that's
the
it.
goal, to get to the point of 10 minutes. Yes.
Yeah. So if you can do that, if you can learn how to meditate, um, that will be amazing. You basically do whatever it takes to become more emotionally resilient. And then one final thing, unless you got something else you want to mention, one final thing which came to my attention at the beginning of the pandemic, which was this: everything was getting closed down. And there's two things that I was shocked that they closed down. One are the gyms. By going to the gym, you stay healthy, you maintain good mental health. And by the way, if your mental health is suffering, you'll end up weakening your immune system, goes without saying. They closed down gym, but I tell you the big one, saunas. When you go into a sauna, and it's amazing, it's absolutely amazing. For 20 minutes, for 100 degrees Celsius, sorry, from 80 degrees Celsius to 100 degrees Celsius, which is a starting point of 176 Fahrenheit, I believe, and above, that kind of ambient temperature I'm talking about in a dry sauna, Swedish Finnish type sauna, when you go in there, you activate something called heat shock proteins. In essence, all you need to know, keeping it as simple as possible, is it's like putting your immune system on steroids. How do I mean? Well, a massive Finnish study was done with 2,335 people over, I think it was a 20-year period. They took one group who didn't use the sauna at all. Another group used it between up to 2 or 3 times, and another group 4 to 7 times. Here's what they found. The people who went to the sauna up to 3 times, they reduced their chances of dementia and Alzheimer's by 21%. Those who went to sauna between 4 and 6 times a week, they reduced their chances of dementia and Alzheimer's by 66 whole percent. 20 minutes, no more. 20 minutes is a sweet spot. Not less, not, it's diminishing returns if you're there too long. And if you stayed in the sauna for 10 minutes, then your reduction rate is only about 11%. So just keep that in mind. Why am I mentioning saunas in context of immune system? Well, viruses and bacteria, the bad guys, they die at 70 degrees Celsius.
Yeah.
So if there's a freaking virus going around, which we won't talk about, don't worry, we don't want to get banned. If you got stuff flying around which is infecting other people, what do you think the sauna is going to do? So here's my recommendation to everybody. If you can't find a sauna, build one, pay for one. I don't know, go and steal somebody else's sauna, but aim to go. I go minimum 4 or 5 times a week. Aim to go at least
You
four
can buy the
times a week.
portable ones. They're quite handy.
Yeah, there you go. You can buy portable ones. I still prefer the the
Yeah,
wooden
that's fine. But
cedar. Yeah,
if you're not nearby to one or you can't, then portable ones are really cheap and handy. Yeah.
yeah. So strongly recommended. So there's so much more. I mean, immune health is such a big topic, massive topic. Some people will probably think, "Hey, what about the
We're not
supplements?"
talking about the whole thing in one
Yeah,
episode.
no, we can't. We can't. We'll do another episode. We'll talk about supplements and herbs on a
Yeah.
different episode. We did say food protection, etc. Let's bring this to a close. Is there anything else you want to say for this 30-minute episode, which is actually 51 minutes?
No, I think it is plenty. Even within our chatting, you'll find that we are constantly sharing those habits and tips and tricks that you can use them. And my idea is that if you are listening, whether you listen to a replay or somehow you ended up on our live, then use these the suggestions that we are making. Try this out for yourself. That is the biggest proof in the pudding. Not the pudding, but biggest proof in the soup, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if you found this useful, please make sure you like, love, comment, etc. Do ask us questions and definitely share. If you're somebody who has been trying to have a baby, man or a woman, you're in a relationship. Let's just clarify the simplest basic things. You're in a relationship, you've been trying to have babies, but you've been to IVF or considering that, then if you want to go down the natural path, then she's waving a hand, this person under the screen. Ashish, click on the link and connect with Ashish. And if you are somebody with type 2 diabetes, you're a business owner, you're a leader, etc., and you want to reverse type 2 diabetes naturally in approximately 6 months, certainly less than 9 months, then get hold of me. There's my link below as well. Connect with us. We'll support you as much as we can. Other than that, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next week and the next episode. And Ashish, thank you for joining us once again.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Harun.
Bye for now.